What up? Winbush here, and today I'm excited to show you guys how I could take tracked footage into Unreal Engine using Cinema 4D, then later compositing inside of After Effects. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So as you can see right now, I have the latest version of Cinema 4D open, version S24. I have the Unreal Engine. This is the new logo that they have. I built it out in Cinema 4D so that we can actually drop this into our footage. And so I'm actually going to start a new project, and then I'm going to come up here to the top where it says Tracker. And I'm going to come down here to where it says full solve. And then from here, you can see that I have two video clips I actually took when I was hiking. I made a shorter version of it that's about 12 seconds because the original is like 25 seconds, somewhere around there. And so we don't need all that footage. I just wanted a short clip here. So I'm going to hit open. And now you can see we have like a low res version of the footage here inside of the scene. And so down in the lower left hand corner, you can see everything starting to progress. And so I'm going to let this calculate. So let this process, it might take a minute or two. And once it's done, I'm going to show you how we can bring that Unreal 3D model into our footage here. So as you can see here, it looks like everything's tracked here. The green circles and dot mean that's like pretty good tracking. And then stuff in the red, it might be a little bit iffy. So if I go through the timeline here, you can see all the dots are staying pretty much on par with my tracking here. And the ones that I want to use are the ones that are actually tracking on this branch here, because I want to have my logo floating, not stuck to the ground. But you can see we're getting a pretty good track here. And if you look off into the distance, you can see like these purplish red ones here. If I scroll through slowly, you can see how they're not exact. And so the ones that you want to really use are the ones in the green. And so if I come back up here to Tracker, you can see that we have a couple of different options up here, like motion tracker and object tracker. The reason I use full solve is because it takes a lot of guesswork out of it. The Cinema 4D tracker has gotten really good over the years. And so usually when I do a full solve, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to put any camera information in there or anything of the sort. It usually picks up a pretty good track right off the bat with minimal effort. So back to here, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to maybe scroll over a little bit here. And let's say I want to use one of these green circle dots right here. So all I have to do is select it. And then if I come over here to my objects panel, as long as I have my arrow over here, if I hit shortcut S on my keyboard, that automatically selects what I have here in the viewport. So that's just a shortcut. As long as you have your arrow over the objects panel here and you hit S, whatever you have selected here will show up here automatically inside your object browser, which is really helpful because we have thousands of points in here. So I'm going to actually pull this one up to the top so I know that this is the one that I want to use. Actually, let me pull one that's a little bit closer, maybe this one here. So that's 1188. So I'm just going to click and I'm going to left click and drag it all the way up to the top because I want to make sure that I know this is the tracker that I want to use to give the position to my Unreal Engine 3D logo. It looks like we're at the top now. So I'm just going to put it right here under auto features. I'm going to leave it under this null just so everything is the way it needs to be. And then I'm going to come over to window. I'm going to come down to my Cinema 4D project here that has the Unreal Engine logo in it. And I'm just going to select this right here and I'm just going to copy it. And I'm going to go back to window, come back over to my tracked footage. I'm going to come over to edit and paste it in. So we don't see it in our scene. And this is the reason that I wanted to bring this right here, this tracking point to the top so that I could easily find it. Okay, I'm going to bring my Unreal Engine logo and just drag it underneath here. And with my logo still selected, I'm going to come back down here to the attributes panel, click on coordinates, and then I'm just going to zero out the X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to hit 0, tab 0, tab 0. And now you can see we have the Unreal Engine logo inside of our scene. It's tracked into our scene. It's huge right now, so I'll probably shrink it down, but it's tracking pretty well to the footage here. Like I'm walking on the hiking trail, so it's pretty shaky and you're getting all those jerky movements in there, which is really cool. So I'm going to come over here and let's say maybe 0.4 for my scale. And let's move through this. See, that's cool right there. So we can even have it in the middle if we want, or we can leave it off to the side, however you want to have it. And if I just click on my logo again here, you can actually move it in your scene as long as it stays on the same axis. I found that it should be pretty good. So there we go. And now I'm moving towards the logo. All I want to do is not make sure I move it in Z space. So X and Y should be good. So if I wanted to center it up so that I can actually walk through it, you could do that as well. You might get some camera clipping there on the side, but we'll just play by ear. So let me try to level this out a little bit so we're in the middle, which I think that's going to work there. So the next step from here is we want to save this out for Unreal Engine, which is super easy. So I'm going to hit Control D on my keyboard here, and that's going to bring up the project panel here. And you'll notice right next to it, it says Cineware. So I'm going to click on this, and all we have to do is hit Save Polygon Cache, Save Animation Cache, and that's it, because I don't have any crazy materials in here. If I open up my material, let me drag this to the middle. But you can see I just have a white color and reflectance. I just have a normal reflectance here at 1. I actually used the GGX, so that one right there, I like using that when I bring it to Unreal. Bringing it down to 1, and that's about it for both of these here. So let me hit Control D again on my keyboard. So if we had any type of materials, we would want to click this on, but like I said, it's just a basic material, no JPEGs or, you know, no texture maps or anything of that nature. And so I want to make sure I come back over to project settings. I did film this at HD at 60 FPS, in which it shows 60 FPS here. And the last thing I want to check is I want to come up to edit render settings. And I just want to make sure that it's 1920 by 1080, in which it is, and it's at frame rate 60. So the camera tracking actually picked that up as well, that the footage was at 60 FPS at HD. So again, full solve will give you everything that you need. So from here, I'm going to come over to File, come down to Save Project As, and then I'm just going to name this one Tracking. I'm just going to click Save, and that's all we have to do. So while this is saving out, depending on how long your footage is, it could take pretty long. But if you have something short, like I have like 12 seconds here, it shouldn't take that long at all. But while I'm waiting, I'm actually going to open up Unreal Engine 5, and then I'll show you how we can bring this into Unreal Engine. All right, so now I'm inside of Unreal Engine 5. I have the Unreal Engine browser opened up right now. And as you can see, I'm selected right here on Film, Video, and Live Events. And then I'm going to select the blank canvas. And I already have my project location selected here. Down here under project name, I'm just going to name this one Tracking Tutorial, like so. Then I'm just going to click on Ray Tracing, and then I'm going to click Create. All right, so this is the brand new Unreal Engine 5. This is the latest update to PAR right now. And so with this open down here in the lower right hand corner, I'm just going to click Update on here. And then I'm going to come over to Edit, and I'm going to come down to Plugins because we have to activate the Datasmith plugin. So with all selected here, under Search, I'm going to type in C4D, and that's going to bring up the Datasmith C4D importer. I'm going to click Enable. It's going to tell us that the Datasmith plugin is still in beta version, but I'm just going to click Yes. And then down here, you're going to click Restart so that it activates everything in Unreal. This restart shouldn't take too long here. And there we go. So we have Unreal restarted here. So I'm just going to select this out, close it out. Then before I bring in my C4D data, I'm going to actually delete a bunch of stuff in here. So I'm going to select my floor, hit delete, click on player start, delete that. I'm going to delete my atmospheric fog, my sky sphere, and I'm going to leave in the reflection capture, the skylight, and the source light. So I'm just going to leave these 3 things in here. And then if I want to bring in my Cinema 4D content, I'm just going to come over here to the upper left-hand corner where it says Content. And then down here under Import Assets, click on Datasmith. And then I'm going to find that C4D project that I saved. So I'm going to go to my C4D folder, and right here where it says Tracking, you can actually see it right here in the browser window. This is exactly what we want. I'm going to click Open. Then I'm just going to save it into the Content folder. That's the only one that I have here. Then I'm just going to leave everything selected here. Just going to bring everything over from Cinema 4D. Click Import. And there we go. So that was pretty quick, and you can see that we don't see anything in our scene yet, and that's because we need to look through the camera, which is easy to find under here under Animation. I'm going to double click on this, and then this right here, this is our sequencer, and you'll see the clip bar right where you see the clipboard here. So if I actually double click on this, it's going to bring up our sequencer window. And if we want to look through the camera, we actually have to select it. So this is going to be the tracked camera from Cinema 4D. So I'm going to select this right here. And there you go. You can see everything came in from Cinema 4D. Everything is blurry right now. And so we can easily fix that. Make sure I have my camera selected, or you can select it over here in your raw outliner on the right hand side. So if I scroll this up a little bit, let me scroll down, and we're going to look for our focus settings, which is right here. So I'm going to select this. And then I'm going to come down here to where it says focus method. Right now it's on manual, and you can actually use this picker right here. So if I select this and select that, now you can see that it's in focus, but it's not going to keep it in focus. And so you could keyframe it if you wanted to, but there's an easier way. If I come over here to focus method and I go to tracking, so now with tracking selected right here with this little arrow right here, I'm going to select this down, and this is after the track. I'm just going to select this picker here, select my logo again, and now you can see that it's tracking again. So I might actually want to track something more on the inside here. So something like that. And there we go. So as you can see, it doesn't look like the materials came here on the faceplate, but it came on the sides and the extrusion and everything. So let's texture this up next. But for this tutorial, if this is all that you came for, to see how we can bring the tracking data in, this is basically how you could do it. So from here, I'm just going to show you guys how we can render this out, bring it into After Effects, and then composite it over top of our footage. And so before we do that, let me actually save all here. So I'm on my content browser. I'm going to select save all, save selected, just because we are inside the alpha version of Unreal 5. So we're just kind of, you know, making sure if any crashes or anything happen that we're safe. So if I come down here to materials, I'm going to select this one right here where it says M1. And let me drag this over to the middle here, because what I want to do is actually make this a double-sided material. So if I scroll all the way down here to the bottom, I believe it's under here, under material properties. And there we go. So I want to select two-sided, and we can't select this one yet because we have to actually put it all over our geometry here first. So I'm actually just going to save this, and I'm going to select the U here, and I'm going to click and drag it here under the material editor here under our details panel. So I'm just going to click and drag my materials under all these slots here under each element. So now if I double click on this to bring that panel back up, and I scroll down, now we should be able to select it because we have our material on the places where it needs to be double-sided. So I'm going to select this to actually enable it and hit save. And now whenever we go past there, we shouldn't get that much clipping, in which we don't. So if I didn't make it double-sided, actually when we got to here, it would start to like ghost through and you would actually see it. And so that's a way to stop that once our camera gets really close there. Okay, so from here, what I'm actually going to do is let's add a post-process volume so we get some good lighting that's going to be continuous throughout our scene here. So I'm going to come over to create and come down to visual effects, post-process volume. Make sure I have this selected. Let me pull this up here, and under search, I'm going to type in UNB, and I'm actually going to select this for infinite extent unbound. And that means everything that's outside the box and inside the box is going to be affected by our post-process volume. So now I can exit that out, and I can scroll down here, and I'm just going to do some simple settings here. So let me scroll this over to metering mode and exposure composition. So I'm going to hit 0 on that, and then come down here to min and max, and I'm going to change both of these to 1. And so this is going to give us absolute lighting in our scene. Nothing is going to, you know, come in and out of our exposure and everything. So that looks good to me. So that means now that I can come over to my skylight, and I can actually add an HDR in here to try to help with some of the lighting a little bit. And so actually, if I come over to my content browser, let me add a new folder here. So I'll right click, hit new folder, hit HDR. And I'm just going to bring in an HDR that I already have. So I'm going to open up Adobe Bridge. I like using Bridge to view some of my HDRs and stuff. I got all of these from hdrhaven.com. It has a bunch of free HDRs on there. But let me see if I have something downloaded that kind of resembles the forest scene a little bit. So something like this might actually work. So let me make this a little bit smaller so we could drag it into Unreal Engine. There we go. So I'm going to select this. It's about 4K. I'm just going to select it, drag it into Unreal. Now I can close it out. And there we go. So now we have it in Unreal Engine. I'm just going to click Save All again. There we go. So over here on Skylight, let me scroll all the way up to the top here to where it says Source Type. I'm actually going to select this right here where it says SLS, and then come to Specified Cube Map. And that's going to allow us to bring our HDR in here to help with some of the lighting. So I'm going to click and drag that into here. And there you go. Now you can see we have our HDR in here. And then for my light source that I didn't delete before, I'm actually going to zero out these properties. And then I'm just going to light it accordingly. I don't remember where the sun was coming from. I think it was coming from the upper left-hand corner. But I'm just going to light this to where we could pretty much see it. We're not going to make it exact for this example. Like if I was going to make it as realistic as possible, I would make sure to see where my sun was inside of my footage so that I could light accordingly. But that right there looks pretty good to me. And so from here, I'm just going to render this out so that we can bring it into After Effects. And then we're just going to overlay it over top of our footage. And so to do that, I'm going to come to the content browser, save all one more time, like so. All right, so from here, I'm actually going to come back to my sequencer. I'm going to come all the way to the beginning. And right here, you can actually see it brought everything in at 60 FPS, which is cool. It brought in that data from Cinema 4D. But what I want to do right now is I'm going to click on track and I'm going to add a camera cuts track. And you want to make sure that you're on frame 0 before you add this in. So I'm going to add it right there. And then right here where the plus sign says plus camera, I'm going to select this. And then I'm going to select the camera that I brought over from Cinema 4D. So what this is going to do is we need to make sure that we have this in here to make sure that it knows what camera to render out. So whatever camera you have for your camera cuts track, that's what it's going to render out. So I can actually select this and there you go. So now you can see we're moving back and forth into our scene there, which is cool. And the reason that I drag these out is because sometimes with Unreal Engine, if you leave these at frame 0, you might get like a messed up frame at the beginning and the end. And so a trick that I learned is if you extend them out way past your beginning and your end point, sometimes you can alleviate that. So now that we have this here, I'm going to come again, hit save all again. I like saving. I just make it a habit to save before I do anything. So I'm going to come over to Window, come over here to Cinematics, and then I want to come over here to Render Movie Queue. So this is going to be how we render it out. It works the same way as we did in Unreal Engine 4. So if I select my render here, select my tracking sequencer here, and then right here where it says unsaved config, I'm going to select this right here. And here's where we have all of our options. And so I'm not going to do a JPEG because we can't have an alpha channel with a JPEG. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to come over to settings. I'm going to come over to EXR. I'm going to select this because this is 16-bit. So as of now, I think only EXRs could do alpha channels. I might be wrong, maybe Alpha ProRes, but just to be safe, I'm just going to do EXR. Then I'm going to come down here to output and I'm going to select this because I want to select the folder that I want to render it to. So right here where it says pre-render, this is a folder I usually make whenever I put my renders in here. So I'm going to select the folder here. And that should be all we have to do there. So I'm not going to get too crazy. I'm just going to do a straight export. I'm going to come down here to accept. And then right here where it says render local, I'm just going to select this and I'm just going to let this render out. And there we go. So now that we have everything rendered out, the next step from here is to open up After Effects, bring in that original footage and just lay this over top of it. All right, so we have After Effects 2021 opened up right now. So what I'm going to do is hit Control-I on my keyboard so that I could come over and I'm actually inside my pre-render footage right here. So I'm actually going to select the top one, make sure where it says Open EXR Sequence, you want to have this selected so that it imports everything as a sequence. So I'm going to hit Import here. And as you can see, it only shows it at 30 FPS. So I know that my scene was at 60. So once you bring it into After Effects, sometimes you have to change that. So I'm going to right click right here. And then I'm going to come over to Interpret Footage, come over to Main. And right here where it says Assume this frame rate, I'm just going to change this to 60. And that should make everything good. So I'm going to hit Control-I again while I have this selected here under my project panel. And then I'm going to come over to my footage. And I'm going to select my hiking footage here. And then it's real quick and easy to make a composition. I'm actually just going to select this, left click and come down here to this little window here to make a composition. And if I scroll through here, you can see this is the footage that I shot when I was hiking. And let me actually drag this over like so. And then I'm going to take my EXR footage from Unreal, bring it in here. And there we go. So now we have our footage in here and our logo. Just something quick and easy and dirty. I'm not going to do any type of crazy composition or anything like that, but This is how we would bring a tracked footage from my camera phone into Cinema 4D, into Unreal Engine for quick rendering, and then composite it all into After Effects. So I know this has been requested for a while. People have asked me over the past couple of months, how can I track footage inside of Unreal Engine? This is one of the easiest solutions that I found. If you have Cinema 4D, you can easily track your footage from Cinema, bring that into Unreal Engine, and then composite in After Effects or whatever compositing software that you have. I know I've seen people actually try to take footage tracked inside of After Effects and then bring that into Cinema. I would say alleviate that. You just go straight from Cinema into Unreal and everything should be simple. So if this helped you out, make sure you leave me a comment down below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, leave me a big thumbs up, and until next time, stay fresh, keep creating, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'll see you soon. Take care. What up, Winbush here.